first, but I'm curious how you're going to handle Julian, because I'm sure you want to get him his number so he can, stay in the Heisman race or maybe at the top of the Heisman race. You probably don't want to leave him in there too long to risk injury. You probably want to get Lincoln some reps. How do you plan on navigating that if you're able to get a big lead in second halves?
Just win the game. I mean, that's it. We got to get better. We got to win the game. If individual honors show up at the end of the season, they do, but that's not the number one goal, and that's part of the unselfishness of all of this. And I've mentioned this before, and it's the same thing right now. Like our goal has to be about winning as a team, and when we do, as you can see, we've won games. Things like this. Guys start. We have to make sure we stay focused on what matters, and that's winning games. So we'll do what's best for the team at that moment. But this is all about getting the first down and focusing on Purdue on the road, and that's it. And so I think anytime we get focused on anything other than that, it becomes a distraction. And so we can't do that, and we have to continue to work to play our best game and master our process. And so that'll be my message to the guys.
Ryan, with James in the second half, it looked like he kind of had a spark there in the run game, showed some emotion there afterward. Can one run or that kind of momentum do something for a guy that's maybe not gotten the traction that he's wanted to this year?
I hope so. Yeah, I saw what you saw. I saw somebody who has been practicing better and had a good run, broke a couple tackles, came up, showed some energy. So I'm hoping that can carry over into this week, and we can keep building on that because we certainly need it.
Ryan, I know it's obviously in the middle of the season, there's a lot of things going on. Do you have a chance ever to sit back and actually evaluate what Julian has done through these first 8 games and how different you spent a lot of time in the summer talking about assumptions and not making them, but it's natural to do that. Has it surprised you what you're getting out of him to this point, or is it just like you thought it was there and now it is? I mean, it seems like he's just changed the way that everyone around the country is seeing him in the short order.
Sure. I think there's a few things. I think the first thing is, like, we all have to avoid, trying to, like you said, like sit back and try to evaluate anything other than like, all right, what do we need to get better at? What's going well? Now, that being said, I think the first thing is, he's got a bunch of guys around him that, he needs to make routine plays routinely, and then he needs to obviously play well situationally. He's done that up to this point, and he's made some tremendous throws and made good decisions and taken care of the football. So he's put himself in a situation to allow us to reach our goals if he continues to play the way he's playing and then continue to improve, because, as we know, the challenges are going to keep getting bigger and bigger. But I think it's clear to see that he is now playing at a level that we feel like we can reach our goals with, and so that's obviously exciting for everybody and builds confidence around the entire offense. But to say, what have we accomplished? We haven't accomplished anything. We just, we're in the middle of the season and got a lot of football ahead of us.
Where's the growth for him from here? Like, what you talk about, everybody needs to improve. What is he?
Well, it just can't be a play or two or, a half a season. It's got to be consistent, and so you look at, quarterbacks in college, you look at quarterbacks in the NFL, they can have a good game, a good half a season, a good season, but can they continually do it over time as teams start to look at, your strengths, your weaknesses, and all those types of things. And so he's just getting started, which is very exciting for all of us, as you know. I mean, if you're an offensive player right now, I mean, to know that Julian's back there with the ball coming out of his hands quickly and the confidence and decision making, like it's obviously exciting to be around that. Not only for right now, but into the future. And he's handled that. This is about accomplishing goals as a team, and he would tell you the same thing.
Ryan, Luke and Tegra both left the game on the final drive. It looked like Josh Padilla left the game early too. Just what's the status of those?
Yeah, I won't specifically mention all 3 of them, but I do think at least 2 of the 3. How they do, but
Coach, you've talked about how you feel the season starts in November. The first playoff ranking comes out tonight. Just the body of work you've done, what your expectations are for tonight?
I mean, my expectation is I hope that none of our team or anybody really pays attention to it, because it doesn't matter. It's good for the fans. I think it's great for college football to be talking about it, but nothing matters if we don't continue to win. So I expect us all to be looking at the end of the season. Well, I guess we got to look at it right before they make the playoff bids and figure out who was playing each other. So I guess we got to look at it then. But that and at the end of the year, the only two times that matter to me. So we'll just kind of focus on Purdue. Does not matter at all. Just keep winning, man. That's it.
It felt like from the outside that Tegra responded well to the challenge, the competition during the playoff run. Is just a little different.
Well, everybody's different, and you have to try to figure out ways to put guys in a situation to be successful and find ways to motivate guys and press the right buttons. That's the job of a coach, to help them do things they can't do on their own, see things they can't see on their own, hear things they can't hear on their own. I mean, that's what we have to do. So we have to always press every button we possibly can to motivate guys. But, again, was it all perfect? No. But was it better? Yes. And so he's getting to the point in his career where he's played a lot of football too. So he has to bring a certain level of maturity and preparation to the table and self-correct on his own and bring self-motivation. But it's our job to make sure we're doing that for him. And as we all know, it's about consistency with Tegra because we know he can do it.
You guys had the bye week right before Penn State. You guys brought in. We see that in the last week of the regular season, I guess. To how you approach that week, like what went into that decision?
Just trying to make the last week of the regular season as normal as possible. That was it. And certainly we appreciate the band and everything they do. And so it's just an effort to make sure we can keep things as what the focus is. And that's the same thing this week. It's the process of coming in after the game on the Sunday, identifying the issues, calling out the champions, recognizing those, enhancing the things we're doing well, fixing those things, and having a great week of practice and sticking with our routine, because it's our routine that will allow us to play well down the stretch. And so we're just going to do everything we can to keep that as normal as possible.
Offensive line, the under pressure rate for Julian in this game was 42%. That was for Pro Football Focus. I don't know, maybe you have different numbers, but what was your evaluation of the pass protection in this game? And maybe they cleaned some things up in the second half, but what needs to improve there?
Yeah, I think there was when you go against a good defensive line like they have, you know that you got to bring it every play. Julian was really clean back there. Some longer developing routes, especially in the second half, where he's able to step into the throw. I know the one in particular to Carnell coming out of halftime. I think the second play of the second half. Beautiful pocket, able to step in, deliver the ball. Then there was the 3rd down and 9 where, we had instant others like that were too leaky. So when you're going against good players, that's the challenge is that, we have to play with unbelievable technique. And, that's about grading out a champion. So, there are some things that were good enough to win the game, but good enough for us to go, win every game? I don't know. We'll have to keep working at it, but that's the goal.
Brian, you talked a lot last year about Will help them in the pocket, feeling things, seeing things. Julian seems to, despite not being 6'4" and 230 pounds, how does he do it? I guess one, do you think he's good at it? And two, how does he go about doing it when he is, not the biggest quarterback in the world?
Well, it's doesn't work. And I playing bigger. Well, part of it's your posture, how you stand. He sees the coverage. He can feel the rush, which is not something that you can teach. He just has that feel, and has a good feel and timing of when the ball needs to come out of his hands. But I think the receivers understand too that they're running routes against the defensive line, and that's a big part of the timing and the spacing that comes with the game. And so, we try to match up the drops and the play actions with the protection. And, the firmer the better he can step into his passes. But then that has to marry up with the timing of the route as well. And that's all the work that gets put in. So that's why but for Julian in particular, I think he's playing with better posture. He's feeling more comfortable with the trees around him is what I call it. That Jeremiah bailed them on, but those are the things that we're talking about, is being able to see over the offensive line and playing big. I think he's been doing that, and he's going to continue to work on it.
reason Ohio State has a losing record at Purdue over the last 20 years? It's this weird anomaly, and I understand this team is far different than years past. You're 1-0 there, but is there anything about the Ross-Ade Stadium experience that you can point to where good teams have struggled there?
I mean, I was part of the 18 team, so I know what that was like, and you know, they have a lot of pride in that program. I think Barry Odom is coached, and he is a good man and a good football coach, and I know he's got a good staff there. So you know, put the film on and watch him play last week, and so you know we have to continue to get better this week. We have to bring it at 1 o'clock on Saturday, and I don't know if there's anything in particular other than Purdue is a program that has a lot of pride, and it's not going to be any different when we play these guys on Saturday.
Back to the poll that comes out tonight in terms of level of curiosity, which obviously isn't much. Is that something you even watch? You want me to guide? Is it on around, or is it just like whatever?
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, again, like, what does it matter if we don't win this Saturday, right? But I get it. It's great for the fans. It's good for the sport, which is great for all of us. So I'm glad they do it, but it's not something that really matters to us. The TVs are always on, so I'm sure somebody will be watching it, but it won't be me.
Things you need to accomplish this month before you can win any of those awards, but some of the stuff you can ask after the game of where the quarterback play was in 2017 versus where it is now. You've had multiple guys get to New York. Grand scheme conversation of, does it matter for you to be able to, whether it's this year, whatever year it is, be able to say one of your guys not only got to New York but won the award? Is that ever like?
I say that to the players. I think everything matters. So, yeah, but I think that's just a byproduct of winning and having success as a group. So that's not the number one goal. But to say that winning a Heisman Trophy or getting recognized the Blitnikoff Award, which I think both Carnell and Jeremiah are going to things that All-American, and yeah, all those things do matter. But on the priority list of things, no, they're not very high. It's more about winning as a team, and when you win as a team, those things come. So just all things that, as we said before, cannot be distractions for us. We got to stay focused on what matters.
Throughout your time as coach, you have not really lost games where teams have come in and tried to pull an upset. It's something that you see all across college football, but this program hasn't really dealt with that. How do you games where you're so heavy favorites and get up for them every week?
Well, we got to keep the process the process. I know you probably get tired of hearing me say that, like I'm sure some of the guys in a program do, but I keep saying to them, don't get tired of me saying that, because that's really what matters. And I think I've said it before, in today's day and age, it's like, all right, what's new about this week? What's different about this week? We can try to find ways to make it a little bit fresh, but at the end of the day, we have to be okay with doing the same mundane, boring things over and over again. Chopping wood and carrying water. That's the book we read this summer. It's the same way. We're chopping wood every single day. We're carrying water every day, and that has to do with our routine. And the minute we try to tempt fate, we're going to get it, and we can't do that. We have to continue to fight. And so, we try to find different ways to talk about that. And it's the little things that'll get you in the end. There was a reflection recently about David versus Goliath, and what was the thing that got Goliath? It was the stone. It was a little thing. The Goliath didn't wake up that day and think that get him. It was. So like what are the things that we're doing on a daily basis that can get us? What are the issues? The issues are always there. We have to continue to address them. And if we think that we got it, we're going to get it. And that has to be the mindset every week. And we have to get better. And we know where we're going. We have to build enough to do the same thing over and over again and continue to figure out ways to get better. So we'll keep doing that. But the players have to buy into it. The coaches have to buy into it. Everybody in the building has to buy into it. That's the key. It's one thing for a coach to say it. It's another thing for these guys to do it. And the credit goes to the players. That's where the credit goes. So I can say this over and over again, but there's a lot of coaches in the country that probably say the same thing over and over again. It comes down to the guys and then the leaders echoing that message in the locker room. So all the things we talk about again this week, and we got to keep getting better, and this is an important week for the Buckeyes.
Ryan, back to Julian. The deep balls that he throws, looks easy. Obviously, it's not. He's talked about everything that has to happen around him to make that work. But what, as a guy who played the position, what makes a deep ball work from a quarterback perspective? Why is he maybe as good as anyone else?
Yeah, well, again, to say that, remember the first year we got in, JT was maybe struggling a little bit with the deep balls. We spent a lot of time working on that. And I remember that year, like so much of the work that we put in was his footwork, making sure that, it was 3 with a big hitch, and on that hitch, the ball was being thrown, the depth, the eye contact with the receivers, the location, the coaching, each throw has its own feel, and a big part of it's the receivers. How they're running the route, where they're going, how they track it, how they play the ball, right? But I don't think, it takes, a genius to figure out that the kid has tremendous anticipation and touch and a strong arm. And so when you stop the film and you see where the receiver is and then where the ball is completed, you're talking about probably, 30 yards where he's got to pick a small area of the field where that ball has to land, and that's just something that you really can't teach. He's got a great feel for it. It's called spatial awareness. Understanding how a receiver is going to run his route, and then being on the same page. Now it takes time. You don't just wake up. Preparation, and that's another thing that I talked to our guys about. I think sometimes people just think we go out and play and the Buckeyes are just going to win a game. It doesn't work that way. The amount of work that gets put in on a week-to-week basis to go put that on the field, to be a competitive excellence, you got one chance to get that throw right against that single coverage. And if you don't, who knows what happens? And if you think it's just going to happen and we're going to show up and just win games, that ain't happening either. So we have to continue to practice really, really well. It's the coach's job to put the plays in to give these guys a chance to be successful. Plays that fit the defense that we're seeing, and then we go play from there and continue to stay focused. So long-winded answer, but hopefully that gives you a little idea of what goes into just some of this stuff. But at the end of the day, he has a tremendous innate talent to throw the deep ball.
Earlier in the week, pointed out on Twitter that you could be heard yelling "got him" on one of those deep shots. How often are you yelling that? How often are you right? How often are you wrong? And just how early can you see it? And then when your quarterback sees it at the same time, how good does that feel?
Well, that one in particular, so I give the players a lot of credit for being able to run a play that we hadn't practiced. But we felt like, based on what we were seeing, that we were going to do it. It was a concept that we work in preseason, we work in the spring, and we felt like there was a look that we were getting that we felt we could take advantage of, and so we decided to put that in at halftime and called it the second play of the second half. And when we got kind of what we wanted pre-snap, we knew what was going on. You can drop a million plays, but they have to go put it on the field. And route stuck them, and you could see the angle, and job well done. But yeah, I mean that is the fun part of coaching. When you kind of put something together and it goes exactly the way you thought it would go. Really, the first down play was the same way. We caught man coverage. I thought the tight ends did a nice job of going out in the 9, inserting in, selling the run, and then that was a gain of 14 against the right look. Second play, we got the look we wanted, and we hit it, and that was just one of those things where you get the right play. It doesn't always work that way. And so we talk a lot of times with the quarterback is, when it's right, we got to make it. When it isn't, you got to make the quarterback, or you got to make the coaches look right, because it doesn't always work that way. You got to manage the play. That one, it all worked out the right way, but you got to credit, Julian. Protection was great, and putting a play on the field that we hadn't practiced.
How often does that happen? You just drop something at half?
A few times a year, probably. Usually the things that we're running are plays that we practiced, hundreds of times during the week and walk through. But every once in a while, if you're seeing something, you have to adjust and be aggressive with it, and give Brian credit for calling it, and the players for executing it.
Ryan, in regards to moving the band up to the bye week, just logistical discussions like that, logistical decisions, how do they come about, and how much do you think logistical things like that through the course of a whole season can affect the football on Saturdays?
Well, I think it's important. I think everything matters, and we try to do everything in the routine. And I talk regularly with Ross. I talk regularly with Quinn, and we go through, and Mick Marotti certainly has a huge hand in all of this. And we just when it was last year, we were going through the playoffs for the first time. We're talking about how do those 10 days leading up to a game, how should we manage this? And then after the season, we go through each week and figure out that we're opening up with Texas. What does that need to look like in August? What does the week of look like? And then the bye weeks, and you go through the season, and we have a lot of give and take there, and we try to do what we can, and if it's working, we keep it going. If it isn't, we try to tweak it to make it better, and that's kind of year to year, and that's the same thing with that decision.
What's the balance for a coach of trying to make every game, every week feel the same, stay to your routine, or acknowledging, leaning in at times to a big game, an important game, a rivalry game, that this is different?
Well, if we have too many things in a week that are different, then it gets you out of your routine. So we try to have certain things that don't change, and the opponent's going to change, the scheme's going to change, the location's going to change, the weather's going to. I mean, there's a lot of things that change on a week-to-week basis. There's injuries. There's a lot of things. The scheme changes, and so. What we can do as coaches is keep it as consistent, so the focus is on those things, not on, okay, why is this new, what's different, all the things that come with a week. And so that's really, what we try to do all the time. I think about the run we made last year. That's something that we tried to do and try to be as consistent as we can. Even with the Washington this year, we tried to make here. And so as a coach, it's just one less thing for them to worry about. Even walking into a hotel and seeing the Ohio State things, on the walls, seeing, familiar faces, like all of those things, I think for a young player just puts them in their routine and allows them to focus on what matters. So we try to do that every year. The thing again.
Ryan, it's been a few years since you actually had a freshman get starts at running back for Bo. What has allowed him to have that role going into November, and when did you kind of realize he was able to handle that for a freshman?
I think he's been consistent. He practices, and he's been able to handle the workload mentally and emotionally. That's been great. I think he's got a group of guys around him that can take some of the workload off of him, which has been great, especially for a young player. But now, we really need him to play his best football here down the stretch, and the whole room really. But he has shown consistency, and the most important thing is taking care of the ball.
Here, I think about C.J. Stroud's accuracy. Is there something that Julian does better than any of them, even maybe C.J., in terms of accuracy, touch, vision, feeling the pressure, whatever it might be?
You're going to get me in trouble with CJ if you start making me do that. Yeah, I know it's fine for you. No, I think it's hard to compare, quarterbacks like that. But when you see Julian, you see the decision making, and his mind works quick. The ball comes out quick, and the accuracy is on point. So, that's what these the first half of the season or whatever has been like for him. And, we'll see. We're still getting started on this, but I think it excites everybody when the ball doesn't touch the ground in practice and the ball just comes out on time, and like everyone just feels efficient in what they're doing. And he has to continue to put the work in with Billy in the classroom, so that when he comes out and there's run checks and there's protection checks, that he's on that and he's running the offense at a high level. Because when he is, it allows us to execute, and that's what we're looking for on offense. Like, we have to be able to execute efficiently for a whole game, and that's it. And that's what we're chasing, and that's one of the things that we're emphasizing today to make sure in practice today, like everything is efficient, and you can't have like a bad play. You can't. You're not allowed to have a bad play, like what we're trying to do. And so that's everybody, but certainly Julian's the one running it.
Admittedly, in the Texas game, you were very conservative with him, kind of had training wheels on. When was it that you saw, I can take those off? He can just go now.
In that moment, that was a big moment. I think we all, I mean, going into it, I think people said it was the biggest opener in the history of college football. Like, you know, the lead up, as we know, and it wasn't just a week lead up, it was like a month lead up. He wasn't fazed, made good decisions, threw that big touchdown pass to Carnell. And when he came off the field, to me, he was communicating what he saw well without that look in his eye like, I don't know. And I said to myself, I think we may have something here. Now, he had to continue to do it and all those things, but he had shown glimpses in practice, you know, good and bad. But, you know, we obviously saw the ability. But then when you get put in that environment, you're never quite too sure how it's going to look. And that was a great start.
Ryan, it appeared to me that Max had one of that big blocking on Saturday.
Who did?
Max player.
Yeah.
Is that how it looked?
Yeah, I think Max has a lot of talent. I think one of the best things for Max is being at Ohio State. He's been challenged every day, and because of that, he's becoming a better football player. He's, you know, the tight end position is a developmental position, and Max is somebody that wants to be able to do everything. He wants to be able to block like an offensive lineman, run around like a receiver, and protect like a running back. And that's not easy to do, and it takes time. It takes development. When you look at the tight ends in the NFL, like they come from all different backgrounds and stories, and I think, you know, Max is another example of that. And so he's getting better each week, and I think, you know, his best football is still ahead of him, which is exciting. And I agree. I think the tight ends probably had their best week of blocking as a group.
Coach, we haven't heard from Matt for a while. Just curious, how's he feeling about, what's he most happy about that's happening like on the field, schematically, players that maybe are performing better than maybe you expected? What are some of his feelings about everything that's going on?
I mean, you'll have to get his exact feelings, but my perspective is that, you know, sort of what we've said before is that, you know, there's chemistry on the staff, there's chemistry with the players, but they got to go put it on the field, and putting in the work, they're putting in the effort. And I think coming off of this last game, you know, the offense put the defense in a tough spot, and so those 14 points in the first half, and you know, that's not something we're used to, and I think that's an area where we all, I wouldn't say holding our breath, but wanted to see how we would respond to that. There was no panic, and that's a good sign of a mature team. Hey, here's the things we got to get done. The locker room was excellent, because I asked, you know, I don't really get a chance to see everybody during the locker room. We're kind of making some adjustments on offense, and then, you know, getting on the iPad, watching some of the things that happened, and then I got a chance to address the group for about a minute before we get back on the field, and the position coaches are working with each group. And, you know, the feedback was that nobody panicked at halftime. And then they came out and played really, really well in the second half and was able to make the adjustments. And so I think, you know, those are the things that are encouraging for Matt, just being around this group of guys and their maturity level.
Last question to Tim May. Yeah, I got many, but I'll just ask one.
Three.
With Julian, was there any bad habit y'all had to fix? I mean, you know, you see the young guys coming up, you watch Saturday nights, and guys are whipping it like Patrick Mahomes and things like that, off platform. He seems to be on platform pretty consistently and stuff. And that aspect of his game, I guess.
Well, there was a lot of things we didn't have to fix, but they're fixed, well, not fixed, but addressed, that we wanted, that we felt like, you know, really help him. You know, you get your power from the ground up, and yeah, I won't get into all the specifics of that, but yeah. On social media, it was like during the summer, he might have gone home or whatever, and he was like throwing these passes where like he was running to the left, stopping, and like throwing across his body like 60 yards. And I said to him, if I ever see that again, you're not allowed to go back to California. That around here. But he naturally, though, can throw the ball off a platform. Like you He was out of there. He was athletic. He was sprinting. He was running to the sideline. He put that ball like in the right spot. You look at the Brandon Innes throw on the scramble the week before. I mean, he's on the move, and that thing is on the money. So, you know, he has that ability to move and make throws on the move, which I think is a unique. But no, I mean, he's playing bigger. His feet are a big part of all of this, and he's bought into it. I think that's the best part of it, and you're seeing him play with friends.
You got room, time for one more?
Yes, of course, Tim.
Do you this is almost like getting, you know, I don't know if brag about yourself or whatever, but do you feel like you were named a head coach for the first time? It's looking back now at almost the right time, meaning 2019, but then 20 you had to deal with the pandemic. 21, you know, NIL, transfer portal, and everything else. In other words, you've grown up. This is normal for you. Bit of an advantage, even though I would think you're riding on a wagon, you're pulling parts, throwing parts, you know, all the time stuff. Do you feel like an advantage?
Well, I remember talking to Jerry Emig just, you know, 18, 19, 20. And I remember saying, man, this is just crazy. And I stopped saying this is crazy. I just said, this is the job. So much. And you have to be willing to adapt. And, you know, I said it's kind of like herding cats sometimes, you know, and you have to multitask. And sometimes for somebody who's very task-oriented, you have to feel comfortable, like maybe not getting every single little thing done. And you can work all day and feel like you did nothing, you know, all day from like, you know, early in the morning till late at night. And you feel like you got nothing done, but you actually did. And I think that's the job of a football coach. You know, now when you're in season, it's obviously much more football oriented, but just in general, there's just a lot going on, and you have to be comfortable with that. And that's not always easy to learn how to do, especially when you're very task oriented and you want to focus on one little thing. But that's the job, and we all have to adapt and figure it out. But yeah, it's been a you know, 7 years of a lot of adaptation and making sure that, you know, we're doing what's best for the university. Yep, thanks.